First synopsis. If you're not familiar, you never heard of, or you've never watched, better yet said, Honeymoon in Vegas. It's a comedy, first off. Again, starring James Caan, rest in peace, Nicolas Cage, and Sarah Jessica Parker. These two, Nicolas Cage, Sarah Jessica Parker, they're in a relationship, they're boyfriend-girlfriend for a long-ass time. He's got issues thanks to his mother on her deathbed. Well, she's dead in the bed, but after the fact, she had to die first and be in the bed. That's a deathbed. On her deathbed, meaning she's inching towards death, creeping towards it, like solid snake in a box. And the enemy's approaching, and he just pops out the box and snaps the neck, like that. Slowly but surely, she's on the deathbed. His mother, and she's like, da-da-da-da-da. Very toxic. We'll discuss that later on, too. She's basically like, for some reason, one of the last things she says to him is, no one's ever going to love you like I did, no woman at least, so promise me you'll never get married. And he's all like, but why? And then she just like dies. She croaks on him just like that. Those being her last words. So he's got that deep in his brain for the longest fucking time, god damn it. And he's got Sarah Jessica Parker. Obviously not her name in the movie, but I can't remember the name of characters. I'm sorry. I forget real names in real life too, so, I'm not perfect. I'm sorry. I never said I was. But he's got her as a girlfriend. They've been together for a while. It's implied for years and such. So they're doing their thing. And she's tired of being a girlfriend, as she says at some point too. I don't want to just be a girlfriend. At some point, I want more. And I feel I deserve more. She's young. She's pretty. Beautiful, full, flowing head of hair. Why wouldn't you marry that? Put a ring on it, word to Beyonce. She gets tired of that shit. He catches on. Oh, God. He catches on to it. He's, hip to the game as far as her being tired. So he says, all right, fuck it. We'll go to Vegas. We'll get married. Why wait any longer? You're right. Even though in the back of his mind, he's still got his mother's last words to him just there. Don't get married. Whatever you do, don't get married. It's a fucking mistake. Don't get married. But obviously, if his mother didn't get married, she would have never had him with, at that time, the husband. There's no mention, no alluding to his father at all, surprisingly enough. So we got no clue if he bounced, or maybe the mom never got married and just had him out of wedlock, or maybe they did get married, but he died, he left. Who knows what happened exactly? She might just be miserable just to be miserable. And again, of course, we'll talk about later on how toxic the mother was. So they go to Vegas, they get married, quick, fast, in a hurry. Basically, they're out there to have fun. They're out there with the intent to get married. But then they run into James Caan, who is a fucking rich as all fuck gambler. He's like, it seems like he's so rich. He's like on, what's his name from Amazon? Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk level rich in the early 90s. Which you didn't have to be a billionaire back then because it was such a rare kind of moniker, a term to throw around there, like a billionaire in those times, where all you had to be was a multi-millionaire or have like one good luxury car, and people were convinced you were like God practically walking amongst them. He's that like stinking rich. He peeps her in the hotel lobby as they're about to check into their room, and she happens to be like a twin, or as he put it, a dead ringer for his dead wife, his spouse that passed away from skin cancer of all things, literally sitting out too much in the sun. And he's like immediately obsessed with her, like, I gotta know who she is, I gotta get with her. It's weird. It's a weird premise how that whole thing starts, his obsession with her. So he's obsessed with trying to figure out how to get to her and fuck the guy she's with, pretty much. Not fuck him, but mean fuck him like he can go fuck himself, pretty much, as far as who she's with. He sets up a thing where he invites him to a poker game, knowing that he's a poker player, kind of sensing it too. Like, I think it's kind of implied you go to Vegas and not play poker or gamble. You're kind of going there for no reason besides sweat and have sand you can bring back home in your ass crack and your nutsack, pretty much, or your pussy if you're a woman, of course. Let's not discriminate here. But he invites him to a game. He lures him in. It's pretty much a setup. He has him thinking he's going to be able to win. He, like, baits him in. Nicolas Cage ends up owing a lot of fucking money to him. Obviously money he can't pay. So he says to him, okay, I could pretty much hurt you, kill you. Doesn't say those words literally, but it's implied. Or what you could do is I could wipe that shit all clean. Like, I think he said like 70,000 or something like that. You can wipe that all clean if you Yes, you, Nicolas Cage. Let me get at your pretty little girlfriend. It's like, oh, but I'm supposed to marry her. That's the whole point. We're in Vegas. And everything, too. And he's like, that's okay. I'm not going to do nothing she don't consent to. And I'm not going to try to do any of that, too. I'm a gentleman. But she looks just like my wife, my dead wife. I haven't obviously gotten past that, the loss of my wife. So I want her because she looks just like my wife. Kind of sick if you really think about it deep down, but okay, where's the harm done? Now he's got to fucking propose that to her girlfriend, his girlfriend, excuse me, who's about to be his wife over the weekend. She is mad, obviously, at first. And she's like, what the fuck you talking about? Why would I ever consent to any of this shit? But then again, it's 92, so even still back when, men, not to say it was right, but men did have that kind of quote-unquote pull to kind of push a woman into doing things they really didn't want to. So I wouldn't be surprised if in real life we never find out about it or there's never the story told about it, but this might have happened some way, somehow. Besides a fucking movie premise, a kind of wacky movie premise, but you get the point. Long story short, she agrees to it just for the sake of getting him out of debt and them not winding up dead at the hands of a gambler. She ends up falling slowly in love with James Caan because, again, he's so rich. He did not mention the fact that he wanted the weekend with her, but he didn't say, as he said, sly enough, where exactly. So he flies her out with him to Hawaii. I forget the name of the island, but it's Hawaii. Who's going to pass up a fucking free trip to Hawaii? If all you got to do is like accompany somebody, be literally like an escort with no sex. So even better for her. No sex involved, no having to touch him. That's implied at least. He's being a gentleman about it. He seems legit about it. Like, I just want the company. That's it. A free trip to the Hawaii for her. They slowly start falling for each other. Or more, it's like he's working his ass off to be a sweetheart to her. She kind of gives in to him because she's tired of waiting around for Nicolas Cage's ass to like finally stop getting cold feet and marry her ass. Even in Vegas with the plan and sole intent of getting married, he was still kind of putting it off for a poker game. I'm trying to figure things out. We got to wait till it's nighttime because he has the same mind like as I do, as I would if I was in Vegas, of all things, thinking of getting married. Let's wait till the sun goes down before we go outside to a chapel because it's hot and humid and the sand everywhere, so I feel uncomfortable. Let's wait until the sun goes down and then get married. But then, of course, as we progress now she's in fucking Hawaii with James Caan. He's convincing her. They kiss. She gives in. And she's like, you know what? Fuck Nicolas Cage. I've been with him too long. He has no balls. You got old, saggy, wrinkly balls, so you technically don't have balls either because they're dragging on the floor. But at least you got enough proverbial balls to be upfront with me to be like, let's get married now. And she says yes. She says yes to get married to James Caan instead of fucking who she's been with for so long. They come back to Vegas after Nicolas Cage ran away from Vegas because he couldn't stand the sight of being in Vegas without his girlfriend to be wife. They fly back to Vegas, Sarah Jessica Parker and James Caan, to get married immediately. She's going to live the lap of luxury. She's going to have riches afforded to her. No fucking bum-ass, private eye, checking on cheating spouse boyfriend that is Nicolas Cage. And just be rich. Why the fuck not? But then something comes up in her mind. She's like, you know what? Something about this ain't right. I don't know. I still kind of love this asshole I've been with the whole time. This cuckold who's got mom issues, can't even fuck me because as soon as he starts getting a little bit hard, for some reason his mother comes to mind, which, pause, that's disgusting, but, I deal with it anyway because, of course, she loves him. So why would she put up with it if she didn't love him, right? So then he's masterminding his way to get back to her in time to stop her marrying him when he gets the word of that shit going on. And realizing that, wait, this is longer than the weekend. I'm going to fucking lose it otherwise because he's got all the fucking money he's got. I got nothing but fucking, a good head of hair and not being so old as James Caan, again, R.I.P., was in the film. So he makes it back in time to not even stop the wedding because she gets cold feet. She realizes, wait a minute, can't we take a couple of weeks or a month, something like that, before we just like go ahead and get married? So she's not saying no completely. She's like, just let's slow down a bit to James Caan. He's not taking that lightly because he knows he's only got her for a weekend and or a couple of days, spilled over. but he wants to rush it because he knows already that Nic Cage is coming back to come get her back. So he's like, all right, fuck it. Take $500,000, marry me, and if you don't like me, you don't like this, whatever, keep the money, we'll get divorced, you end up fucking winning. And even then, she's insulted because she's like, oh, that's all I am to you? No thanks. And she tries to walk away. He pulls her back in. He says, all right, fuck it. $1 million, yours. It's a lose-lose for me. You're the winner here, the only one. Marry me, divorce me after, keep $1 million. At least let me get a nut off a couple times with you. That's it. And she's still insulted. She still says no. So she's running away from him. Nic Cage is running around Vegas trying to find where they might be at. He's trying to find a flight back to Vegas because he can't get one. Like, James Caan is like really influential wherever he goes like that. So he manipulates the airlines and makes sure he gets no direct flights to Vegas. So he worms his way onto a plane of all places on an open airfield, it seems like. Happily enough, they're going to Vegas, but oddly enough, they're like the Flying Vegas skydiving team. They all dress up as Elvis, basically, and skydive into Las Vegas, which seems cool, to be honest, except the Elvis jumpsuit costume cosplay part. But skydiving into fucking Vegas, that'd be pretty fucking awesome. I'd be up for it, too. But he lands a flight with them, so he's got to dress up. He's got to be one of them, one of us, one of us. He's got to dress up like them. He's got to jump out the fucking plane, land in Vegas. She's dressed up like a showgirl to hide from James Caan. Conveniently enough, because it's a romantic comedy, he's got to fall directly into Las Vegas, hits the target, no fucking harm done. They find each other. All is said and well and done. James Caan, they didn't imply gangster, but more like just a gambler with a lot of money, says, you know what? Fuck it. True love wins. At the end of the day, who am I to be the old fucking curmudgeon and be like, I was almost marrying her, you cuck, you got lucky, and, well, what am I going to do now, basically? A deal's a deal. So they go back, I'm assuming back home in New York, because we don't get to see them back home in New York. They get married in Vegas, after all, small-ass chapel, with the rest of the Elvis skydivers, two in hand, everybody crying, boo-hooing, everybody's happy tears and shit. They're married, it's said and done. And on top of that, no debt to pay back to James Caan, the very influential gambler. That's Honeymoon in Vegas in a nutshell, basically. As I mentioned earlier, the film opens up with him seeing his mother on her deathbed in the hospital. That's how we get introduced to this whole fucking thing, and it starts off. She's literally dying. She's about to die, but we just don't know when. And she basically says to him, as the last thing he'll ever remember hearing from his mother, don't ever get married. We don't get clarification as to maybe she was married to somebody, implying his father, but he left, or maybe he was abusive towards her, or he died, or they just got divorced, whatever. All she says is don't ever get married. We're assuming that for the most part, or I did at least. But then he's like, well, why would you say that? You know, what's the problem? What's the deal and shit? And she has the most toxic mother trait possible. I beg, Spanish or not, because I know stereotypically they're the most, commonly known to be like this, but any mother period watching this, first off, shout out to you for being a mother, but also please avoid this if you can, and I beg of you, don't be toxic enough to say, quote, of all things, to your male child, no girl could love you like I did, Jack. That's his name in the movie. Meaning, the mother has that thing in her mind where only she's capable of loving that boy as much as she did, as much as she's done for him up until that point. He's a detective for hire to check on cheating spouses and shit. But she throws the most toxic fucking ball up for him to catch, and he has no choice to catch because it's from his mother. No girl could ever love you like I did. That's sick, that's wrong, that's toxic. That fucks with your mind so much. And worse for him, because after she finished saying that, she drops dead. Okay, well, she was in bed, so she can't drop nowhere, because then she'd drop out of bed and then fall to her death, technically, even if it's like 2 feet out the bed. But she just croaks after that. She kicks the bucket. After being so toxic, too. So that stays with him, even though he's already an old man. But you know how some guys, children are with their parents and shit, too. Lasting image, lasting last words of all things to say to him, don't get married and no woman could ever love you like I did. I'll admit, I have that with my mother, who's still alive, but she's been toxic. And over time, I figured out that's what I had going on with my own mother. So to break away from that wasn't easy, because they don't go down easy as far as like staying away from my child. How can I bear the thought? But once you do, it's the best thing possible for you both, because then you realize a lot of toxicity going on there. So with her saying that to him, of all things, as her last dying words, of course he's fucking scarred, even though he's older, but that stays with him as far as, maybe she's right. So of course that trickles over into his relationship already existing and standing with Sarah Jessica Parker in the film. I think her name was Betsy. She's a second grade teacher. She's already great with kids. Young, cute, full head of hair. Seems like a great girl overall. Puts up with his ass being a private detective of all things. Like, imagine being one of those in 1992, where I guess afforded the fact that there's no technology like there is today 30 years later, 2022, anybody could be a private eye or really check or keep tabs on their spouse if they suspect him or her cheating. Back then in 92, I get it. You had to be, like, I don't know if he was a law-abiding whatever. He was like any sort of police, whatever the fuck. Maybe just like some guy who's like really good around cameras, dressing up and pretending to be other people so he can spy on other people pretty much. I don't know what the credentials were for being a private eye back when, but the fact that he had a job and was able to pay his fucking rent for the space he, sublet to be a fucking private eye with his office and shit, I guess he wasn't doing too bad for himself, considering in New York, of all places, renting out commercial space ain't cheap. And then having to pay your own fucking rent to live in that home outside of work hours ain't cheap either. So I guess he fucking broke even, it seems like. That trickles over, all that shit, into his relationship with her. And she's putting up with him again, as I was saying, being a private detective of all things. So she's great. She's meant to be. They're meant to be. Why wouldn't you marry her? But he's got that shit going on in his fucking mind as far as what his mother said to her. So as perfect as she seems to be for him, and they're meant to be for each other, it's like he just can't do it. It's always getting cold feet. They even fucking show apart with her in bed together. They're not fucking, but, too bad, because young Sarah Jessica Parker, chef's kiss to her. Wow. They're in bed, and basically he can't get his dick hard. He can't fuck her, because all of a sudden he gets dreams, or in this case nightmares, about his mother naked, washing the laundry, I think he said she did, or something like that. And she's already hip to it too, like, oh, did you have another nightmare about your mother being naked and talking to you and giving you advice and whatnot? So she's already accepting him for who he is. And he's prolonging the shit just for the fact that he's still holding on to what his mother said to him when she died, literally. So he's all messed up in the head. He's got a good ass fucking woman in Sarah Jessica Parker here, but he just won't do it. And all that, thank you, Mom, for being so toxic. You fucked me up. You knocked the fucking screw loose in my head to see point blank someone so awesome and excellent like her, and I just can't get it up. I can't get my dick wet. I can't get my dick hard enough to stick inside her and fully enjoy her. Not saying, of course, that's all a woman's good for. Obviously, forgive me for coming off that way perhaps, but meaning you love to enjoy the company of a woman fully, in that sense, consensually too, mutually, body on top of body. You want to be able to return the favor and say thank you, at least with a sincerely, and a nut bust, and protective sex, lube up, strap up, all that too. Let's not make babies we don't really need to have like that, or we're not really ready to welcome like that into the world, better get said. That's all it is. And also, there's a funny part as far as him being a private eye. One of the first cases we see him get in the office is a guy who swears that his wife, they're both fat. His wife is cheating on him with, of all people, Mike Tyson. So shout out to Mike Tyson, he's getting props. This is 92, so Mike Tyson is pretty famous at that time. The guy has no neck, he's so fat. 1 or 2 chins, I lost count how many. But he swears, of all things in his head, his wife is cheating on him with Mike Tyson, which is an ill kind of trait to have as a male. I'm a man, I can speak for myself. I don't have an ego like that. I barely have one. I like to think I'm humble. But then again, with certain things, maybe I'm not so humble. But this guy has in his mind that I think it's a very common trait amongst men. Even if they're built like an Adonis or they're built like a fucking walrus like this guy was. Some guys have enough of an ego to think, if my wife, my girl, whatever, is going to cheat on me, it can't be any lesser than me. He's got to be like Fabio at that time, if you're familiar with Fabio. He was like a male supermodel. He's got to be like Cristiano Ronaldo, modern day in time. It's got to be Brad Pitt, iconic male, celebrity crush. I think both genders, both ways can consent to a beautiful man, right? No way she's going to cheat on me with some loser, some fucking peasant, someone lesser on the totem pole than me and shit. That's a toxic trait this guy has, of all things, considering he ain't shit and his wife ain't shit either, as we've seen in pictures, but he's convinced it's Mike Tyson. It turns out later on in the movie it's a prank by his co-workers, like, photoshopping, impressively enough in 1992, photoshopping a big ass black and white picture of his wife's head cut out on some other bitch's body sitting next to Mike Tyson, and he's convinced, I got hard evidence, it's right here. My wife is cheating on me with Mike Tyson. You won't do anything about it. You're fucking cucking me. God damn it. Whatever. But yeah, that's a very like weird, funny, as far as like the characters and the way the guy looks, but also alluding a lot to a common toxic male trait too, as well. I'm not here to be, woke or conscious or put down men. I'm a man at the end of the day. I look down every fucking day, and that's the first thing I see looking back at me, my fucking one-eyed Willie. Every day I wake up, boom, it's right there. It's like I'm saluting the flag every fucking day, first thing in the morning. So I'm proud to be a guy. I got no shame in being a guy, but that is a trait I never understood amongst men. Maybe because I was raised by a woman, that might be a little different than me. And she is right as far as Sarah Jessica Parker, her character. Why would she deserve to be a girlfriend forever? Why should she settle for being a girlfriend forever? There's two things I never got about the boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. The first one that always stuck with me is, and this isn't the age shame or nothing, but it's more of, one, how can you be 50? Okay, maybe 50 isn't so terrible. How can you be 60, 70 and be like, oh, my boyfriend, oh, my girlfriend? Who do you fucking have to ask each other for permission for to sleep at each other's houses? You're probably going to meet each other at the same retirement home anyway, and give or take 5-10 years. What the fuck you doing calling each other boyfriend, girlfriend? Just who I'm with. We got to find another term for people above 60 besides boyfriend, girlfriend. Consensual old person I'm fucking on a semi-regular basis, but we got no defined set date or time to be married, if we get married, basically. And two is a lot of relationship lasting, well, I can speak for myself. Me and my girlfriend together now, I want to say like coming up 6 years. But beyond that, I've seen people that have been together, 15 years, boyfriend, girlfriend, living together, sharing everything practically, basically already, but they're not married. Now, I'm not here to say either, oh, you need to get married. I'm not going to come off as a saint saying, you need to be married. You're living fucking dirty, not being married to one another. No, put a ring on it or else you're a scumbag. No, I'm not saying that either. But it has confused me to think, after a while, you're that comfortable, you let your guard down, you've been together that long, why not just fucking do it anyway? You can say that to me too. It's been 6 years, but you know what? Who knows when it'll be soon enough to just finally do it, right? But that's been confusing. But she does have that ideology the whole time. And besides her being young and cute, full head of hair, and great with kids, and overall just a great girl, she has that right to be like, well, when are we gonna? Because she also has to help him combat his inner demons as far as, again, mom's toxicity, his insecurities. Maybe he's worried about his job stability, being a private eye. Maybe he wants to think he can offer her more, but he can't at the moment, etc., etc. Until finally he does get brave enough to say, let's go to Vegas, get married, come back, and we'll be married. So that'll be all said and done. And conquer my fears that way, right? Grab life by the balls and just go full speed ahead kind of thing. So she is right enough to approach him like that and, kind of get that out of him. That's good. Now also, I wonder in the case of James Caan, his character. Again, rest in peace, James Caan. Very good. I'd say good in this movie, but I will give it to Nicolas Cage. as far as being the heart and soul and the saving grace of this film overall, because it's his acting. We'll get to it later, of course, in more detail, because I love Nic Cage. I love this energy type of Nic Cage throughout this whole movie. It's him that saves the movie from being maybe average at best. But James Caan's character, well played too, but it makes you wonder. When people got this kind of shit going on, his case, he's got a wife that died, which is terrible to go through enough. I'm sure hard enough to deal with. But he encounters Sarah Jessica Parker with him, with Nic Cage, in the lobby of the hotel. And he sees she's literally the twin of his dead wife. So we don't know how long it's been since she's passed. We do know she died of skin cancer, so slow, kind of degrading death. But then, is that an excuse for him to be like, well, I'm so rich, I got all this money and power and influence in Vegas of all places, I'm gonna fucking figure out how to get with her, get him out of the picture, at least for the weekend. Is he really gonna sell for the weekend, just with her like that? Yeah, of course it's gonna develop into what the fucking, what happened in the movie. You know, he wants more, he wants to marry her, he wants to take her away from everything pretty much, and make her his woman, his property. But not really because he loves her or finds her so fascinating, but because literally she looks so much like his dead wife. So that's the only way in that he gives her to be a part of his life. So does he really care at the end of the day? And does that stop him from, you know, I don't know. I'm not implying that he would, but then again, he is a gambler with a lot of influence in Vegas, and he does get violent with one of the guys. Not so much violent, but really aggressive, like alpha male shit, when he greets one of the guys in the hotel and they tell him, oh, your presidential lobby isn't available to you right now, like the president of Brazil's here. And he grabs the guy by the ball sack. We don't get to see the full-on grab. I hope he didn't literally grab the guy by the balls, but then again, James Caan, a guy from way back when, old school mentality, might have actually grabbed the guy's, I think Tony Shalhoub, I think it was Tony Shalhoub, or Shalhoub, whatever, grabbed his balls for real and did his fucking lines too, maybe, just to seem more convincing. I would hope not. But imagine you're doing that to somebody who works at a hotel and just telling you what it is. Imagine what he's going to do to the one replacing the hole his wife left in his life if he gets tired of her talking back or acting like, well, remember that you found me in Vegas and you begged me to be a part of your life and fill the hole that your wife left. Meanwhile, your wife is filling up a hole in the ground right now, asshole. What do you want me to do about it besides you being pathetic and missing your wife that much, asshole, kind of thing? And then what's going to stop him from fucking just backhanding her to fucking, back to New York, basically. I'm not condoning violence, so I'm saying you never know with those kind of guys. And is that his excuse to be acting the way he acts or coming off the way he comes off? Because he does set up the whole thing elaborately. He sees her, then him, and he schemes already how to get into her pants. End goal, of course, but literally first off, how to get with her. He slips the fucking note under his hotel door to invite him to a private exclusive poker game. I guess he randomly guessed he was a poker player. He knew already, but he was already playing poker back home in New York. He reels him in, makes him think he's going to win. He starts losing a little bit, says, you know, it's all right, it's on the house, play some more, whatever, here's some chips, whatever. Those little fucking free chips turn into fucking $70,000 he owes him. And all in all, it's a plot for him to be like, you know what, there's a way to forgive all this for you. Give me your girlfriend for a weekend. I won't do nothing. I won't stick nothing in her that she won't consent to. I just want the company. She looks so much like my dead wife. Look at my fucking dead wife and look at her. They're fucking twins practically. How do you want me to pass up this opportunity? And on top of that, I'll wipe your fucking debt clean too. You don't got to do a thing about it no more. All that, proposing for the sake of just company. And he also slips in the part, the ultimatum of like, I didn't say where. So we're just going to go to Las Vegas, to Hawaii real quick for the weekend. And then we'll come back when we're ready to come back, basically. But because you owe me, I'll say when, you know. You feel me, right? Come on. Play ball with me, basically. And once she sees Hawaii, who's going to turn down a free trip to Hawaii? Comp trip. All luxury included. All expenses covered. You're a pretty woman getting courted by an older man with money and power and influence, and getting taken all around fucking Hawaii. All the scenery. Who's gonna fucking say no to all that shit, especially if you're a woman? So of course she's getting wet, literally because of the humidity and the heat out there in Hawaii. But she's also getting wet at the thought of, wow, this guy's so fucking rich and influential and powerful. How am I going to turn this down? What if I decide to live this life instead of staying with my fucking bum ass, mentally scarred for life by his dying mother boyfriend who still won't marry me, even if we're in Vegas, literally with that sole intent, and he's still fucking delaying, he's still getting cold feet and shit too. Why not? Kind of like, why wouldn't I marry this guy? Why the fuck not? Let's fucking roll the dice here. He likes to gamble. My boyfriend's a fucking bum card shark too. Let's fucking roll the dice here. Let's gamble. Let's fucking see what we get out of this shit. What's in the jackpot? Pretty much, better yet said. And you know what? Then there's a part where he lies, James Caan, to her, saying, oh, you know what? He told you 70,000. No, he just lost 3,000. And then he was the one to be like, I'll give you my girlfriend for a weekend. Come on, let me play some more cards. I'm fucking fiending like that. I'm a degenerate like that too. It's only 3,000, but I don't got it on me. I don't want to pay that off. So take my girlfriend. She's fucking already waiting for me in the hotel room, legs spread open. She got nothing better else to do anyway. So come on. Let me play another fucking hand, basically. And then she gives in. She hears that shit, knowing him for so much longer, the boyfriend, compared to James Caan, who she only met over the weekend, literally, and she believes him. All again because the influence, the power, the luxuries, all afforded to her if she says yes to him. And she fucking does at some point, so, well, she's not that perfect either, but you know what? You're fucking in Vegas, you get married, yeah, you can expect a couple things to go wrong. If you don't already live in Vegas, that's different. But if you're going to Vegas with sole intent to get married, maybe it's something you want to keep secret or you're not really ready to do, because you can get married anywhere else. Vegas is just like an express wedding. Mostly, I would think, or from what I was understood, Vegas marriages are always the ones that you're drunk, you go to Vegas, you get married just because you kind of fucking linked over the same streaming series that you love so much. Or you want to fuck that bad, but she's religious, or she believes a certain thing, a certain entity, whatever. You say, okay, let's get married for the night, I'll fuck you, then we'll talk about it, or divorce in a week or so, whatever. At least let me get my nut off. Now moving on to Nicolas Cage. Jack, I believe his name was in this film. I love Nicolas Cage. He's eccentric, he's weird, he's just Nicolas Cage the whole time. Especially in his movie. Now, I was saying before that if it wasn't for Nicolas Cage being Nicolas Cage energy the whole time in his movie, if it wasn't him, anybody else in this flick besides him, I don't know if I would have enjoyed it so much. But I genuinely had a good time watching him do his thing, his Nicolas Cage thing. His delivery throughout, the way he fucking hit his lines, certain words too, with emphasis. I love doing the Nicolas Cage impression because he's just being him the whole time when he does his lines, kind of thing. I don't do the best Nic Cage, but I love trying to, at least. I like to lie to myself and make myself think I do a decent Nic Cage at least. But there's a couple lines that stand out. I mean, the whole time he talks, it's pretty funny. And he's really the saving comedic grace throughout the whole film. So when he fucking wakes up the night after having already agreed, okay, you can have my girlfriend for the weekend and do whatever you like with her, but just don't fuck her too good, please. Have her come back to one piece to me. When he goes back to play some more games, the fucking what's that fucking game? Roulette, I think. He goes to play roulette. He looks at the fucking girl dealing the shit, where you put your little chips on the fucking board. He's like, it's extremely important that I win. And she says, I'll see what I can do, basically. But just the distress, the way he delivers it too, it's hilarious. There's a scene where they're arguing, him and her, in the hotel room about initially actually settling the deal as far as her going with him wherever he chooses, basically, in this case, Hawaii. It's a funny argument. Look up that scene if you can. It's a funny, back and forth interaction. It's the best one of the whole film. There's a couple of other arguments they have earlier before that that's not so great, or she comes off kind of just hitting the lines versus him actually feeling like he's actually in an argument with Sarah Jessica Parker, or they're legit having to deal or discuss with my girlfriend's going with an older guy for a weekend to Hawaii that's so much richer than me, I don't know if she'll ever come back to me. So he's really in it. And when they're in this argument in the hotel room, he screams, "It's like a jungle out there," in Hawaii, referring to. And when she's like, "I don't care, I'm gonna get hot, humid, and wet, and guess what? If it happens, it happens. Too bad on you. Why aren't you fucking rich and old and at least winning games in Vegas instead of losing, you asshole?" kind of thing. And he basically drops down to a knee. And because they was there already, and the sole intent, the main focus was to get married, he's like, "Okay, now let's get married." He's basically like, "Okay, marry me tonight." And she's like, "No." And he just jumps up and screams, "No, why not?" kind of thing. It's hilarious just to watch Nicolas Cage in his element, especially young. Who gives a fuck how I act? This is what you want from me anyway. Nicolas Cage, uncaged Nic Cage, basically. And then there's another part where they're already on the island. There's a guy that drives them around. I think it's Pat Morita, right? I think rest in peace. He passed a while ago. And they meet like a shaman. This part wasn't so great. That is the one thing I got to take away from the movie as far as a con versus the many pros it has. The one con was like they go to see a shaman. Like he pays this driver to like detour him from coming to see where they're at on the island. So the driver takes him to some shaman, like mixing up the names, like I don't understand, no speak English kind of thing. Takes him to like the other end of the island, sees a shaman's like an old white guy with dreads, and you know, never trust fucking old white guys with dreads, old or young, because they're always up to no good. Culture vultures, better get said. But it's a part where he's singing, he's like, he doesn't even know what he's saying, he can't hear, something like that. It was kind of like a nonsensical part. The only saving grace is how Nick is getting frustrated. It seems like legitimately throughout the fucking thing, the whole scene. And at some point, Pat Morita says to him, "Oh, you know, respect the shaman because he's got influence on the island. He's like a big influential fucking person." It says to him, "Influence? He lives in a shack!" kind of thing, because he does live in a fucking shack, a little shed made out of fucking dirt and sticks and spit, probably, in the middle of Hawaii, which, you know, it's Hawaii though, so I guess at least it's eternally beautiful and like weather-wise and all that. But imagine importing anything to Hawaii. It's crazy expensive, as I've always understood. But I love Nicolas Cage throughout the whole movie. He's hilarious. His whole delivery, arguing with Nicolas Cage at that time must have been the most fun thing ever, even for a female, because how are you going to take him serious? He's getting all the rest and hitting fucking certain words in between the argument and getting all upset and all over, filibustered and whatever, flabbergasted. "What are you doing to me? I don't want to do that," kind of thing. It's hilarious to watch him. I love watching him, young Nicolas Cage, do his thing like that. And also, like I said before they jump to the whole part where in Hawaii, he's trying to fucking find out where they are and pinpoint their location. It's, again, beautiful scenery for Hawaii. Shout out to fucking Hawaii. It's one of the states, of course, obviously, so it's U.S. territory, obviously. I think it was Hawaii the last state that we acquired, or was it Alaska? I think Alaska was, I know Alaska cost us $25 million back when, but I think Hawaii might have been after. I don't know right now. Point is, great investment on Hawaii, because Hawaii is just beautiful. Who turns down a fucking free trip to Hawaii? How is there any way possible to not film something on a low budget camera, you know, something not super high tech, but it's Hawaii, so it's like a cheat code. It's going to be a great picture. It's going to be a great video regardless, unless you're, you know, taking all blurry pics or whatever. There's no bad image, bad way to capture Hawaii in its essence. It's just beautiful to fucking watch. There's also, I don't know who fucking directed, the name escapes me, but whoever was in charge of like the cinematography, the shots and all that too, chef's kiss. Job well done. Beautiful. There's swooping images of Hawaii. Obviously no drones back then, but close enough to like drone or maybe helicopter panning over shots. And there's a scene where they're driving a Jeep through the fields of Hawaii. It's all dirty and green, but it's still luscious and beautiful and vast with like mountains and volcanoes in the background. It's Hawaii, goddammit. How are you going to fuck up Hawaii on film? There's no way you can do it. So after they leave for Hawaii, or he gets word that they're in Hawaii pretty much, Nicolas Cage runs back to New York. He's got a fucking deal. He doesn't find out that that they're having such a good time that they're willing to die at the feet of a volcano erupting in Hawaii until it's in the news on his TV back home in New York. He sees that shit, and it's not until he sees that he's willing to run back to Hawaii to go and save her, pretty much. He sees them both on TV, live news coverage of the volcano erupting, and I think either because he saw them enjoying themselves that much with the whole family and shit, or maybe, I would hope, he had like the hero genetics kick in and be like, oh my god, she's at the feet of an exploding volcano, I gotta save her, it's up to me, and runs off to Hawaii to go fucking save her ass finally. Shout outs and rest in peace to Ben Stein, who's on the line in front of everyone else at the fucking airport trying to book a flight for not even that same day, which is the funny part. He's like talking in his Ben Stein manner. I just want to book a trip to Milwaukee. No, not for today. My Saver coupon point says I can book it for Tuesday or Thursday, so I'd rather do those days. And well, he sounds actually, well, rest in peace, shout outs to Ben Stein always. I always found him hilarious, especially when Ben Stein's money. But he does, now that I think about it, he does sound like a kind of drugged up, like a zany Nicolas Cage, if anything, much older. But rest in peace, no disrespect to Ben Stein. Nicolas Cage has an epic rant, in character of course, during this part, because he's taking forever to fucking make up his mind as far as where he wants to go. No, he knows where he wants to go, Milwaukee of all places, but he doesn't know when he wants to go, right? So he makes it there, and he runs to the front of the line because he's in desperation mode of trying to get to the exploding volcano that's gonna like bury his girlfriend in molten fucking magma lava. And he runs and he yells at him for fucking taking so long on fucking making his mind up, and he's yelling at her, at the agent, at him. It's hilarious. It's a fucking funny scene. I definitely recommend that scene if you're gonna look it up on YouTube or whatever. People are clapping him and shit, but he's right though, because even if the guy's trying to use coupons, he's one of those that takes forever, pays no mind to the people in the back of the line, wherever it is, the fucking bank, the airport, the supermarket and shit, or the supermarket where you go to the express lane. You know, because you count along the way, you got 10 or less items, but there's always the one guy, older, alone, the old lady, whoever it is, that's got like 20 items, and they want last week's discounts, or they want to still use these coupons, which is obviously expired. Now I know more about that firsthand because my girlfriend insists on going to the Russian supermarket by us, which ain't bad selection-wise, but there's always the fucking older people that, on top of that, this is the funny part. So we go there because she likes it there, and there is great stuff, so I, oblige to it. But we go there, and every time it's the same thing. It's an old person that can't make up their mind, insist on counting their fucking money there with the cashier. They want to use coupons. It's obvious. Oh, well, they don't speak no fucking English at all, but they're ready and fucking willing and able to use their food stamps. But on top of that, they got the advantage of speaking Russian to the fucking cashiers, which are all Russian girls working there too. Maybe another reason I should go there. Wink, wink. I consent to go in there. Wink, wink. Don't tell my girlfriend, please. But they got fucking Russian-speaking personnel there, stocking the shit, working the bakery, ringing them up, and pushing the carts and shit. And they're both looking at each other like they can't understand each other. Like, huh, the whole fucking time. Duh, what? Not duh, da. Like, what? That's Russian for what? So it confuses me a lot. What was I saying? I'm sorry. Oh yeah, too. So he was complaining about that shit. He vented though. As far as you taking too fucking long to want to book a trip to Milwaukee, hurry the fuck up because I gotta go rescue my girlfriend and play firefighter with magma, my girlfriend being buried underneath it, and worse, she's gonna be fucking passed out, collapsed, and that old fuck's gonna be laying on top of her, dry humping her to pretend save her, like giving her mouth to mouth, and then they're both gonna fucking melt to death by magma. An exploding volcano of all that. I'm a fucking exploding volcano of passion, erupting, trying to get my girlfriend back out of the clutches of an evil old fucking Hawaii of all places. I don't know. But, and then we get to the pretty funny part of James Caan, his character, pulls all the strings to make sure he can't get a direct flight back to Vegas once they're already planning to get married in Vegas, him and Sarah Jessica Parker. He can't get no direct flight back. So he's there. He's looking for an open airfield. He finds it, and he finds a whole group of fucking guys loading themselves into a plane. And he convinces them to let them on their plane because they just happen to be going to Vegas. So like, yeah, come on in, bud. Come on, pal. They're the Utah chapter of the Flying Elvises. Now, I don't know. Well, actually, in the credits, I think they were legit credited as maybe the Flying Elvises is something similar enough. Maybe name changes, who the fuck knows. But they legit exist. And it turns out, to his dismay and surprise, they're the Flying Elvises. So he's got to dress up as Elvises, one of us, like a little cult, like a little flying cult, if anything, too. That'd be cool. I'd join a flying cult. They were like flying all around the plane. I'd join a flying cult. Why not? But they all got to dress up like Elvis, and they're gonna skydive down into fucking Vegas of all things. So he got himself the free flight he needed, but at the expense of skydiving, which it looks like he's a spaz. I'm sorry, no way to better describe him as, but he's a spaz. Probably never ever thought he'd skydive in his fucking life. What's he got to do? I got to skydive as Elvis Presley out of a plane that's gonna last over Vegas, because I got to save my wife, because she was in Hawaii in the clutches of an evil old man who's rich and influential, has got more money than me. But now I got to go save her by jumping out of a plane in Vegas and hopefully saving my marriage, or at least the marriage I was supposed to have with Sarah Jessica Parker, kind of thing. That's his whole mentality the whole time, right? So the funny part about that shit is, obviously the guys that know how to skydive, if not the real guys doing it, most likely stunt doubles, they're all jumping at the plane. You see the footage the whole time as they're, it's beautiful footage. I wish this was a real thing, if it's not already, to be able to skydive into Las Vegas like that. That'd be fucking awesome. Just like a big fucking white target. You know, white privilege, of course, so white target makes sense. They dive, they land on that shit, and it's all fun and games. But when it comes to his part, obviously, he's Nic Cage. He's Nicolas Cage. He's got this power and influence to use the whole fucking time for the movie. The whole score is just fucking remakes of Elvis tracks, and some Elvis songs, original scores used as well. Of course, he's not going to risk himself to fucking jump out the plane legit for real, for real. It's a body double, jumping in his place. They cut the fucking part, which I'm willing to bet, like his ass was willing to bet his girlfriend away pretty much. I'm willing to bet that it was a big, dark, maybe green screen room. Not even green screens. They didn't like impose his image onto nothing. It was literally cutting away to him, dangling and telling him, Nick, we need you to pretend you're falling from the sky. You sky dove from a plane in an Elvis jumpsuit, which, you know, you demanded on having. So do what you can and pretend you're flailing in the air in an Elvis jumpsuit. Okay, is it okay if I at least improvise? Because I'm Elvis in the air in despair. I didn't mean to rhyme. It's just, and I'm not trying to write an original Elvis tune. I'm just trying to get into the mindset of Elvis in the air, kind of thing. So it's all just him on a string, most likely in a dark room, you know, cut close to his face so it doesn't look like he's not there, but it's so clear, like a sore thumb sticking out, that he's not there in the air. But then again, it's all right. He don't got to be doing his own stunts like that either. So, of course, they cut to him when he's like maybe 5 feet off the ground and about to fall in, you know. So if I was Nicolas Cage, though, if it was me, I would do it. For the sake of like taking some skydiving training, put that into the budget of the film at their expense. I get to learn how to, and I get to fucking jump into Vegas. Why not? But again, he did that shit, and it just looks funny the whole time. It's super fake, obviously, but it's worth a laugh just because how he still like twirls and twists around like he's actually falling out the plane himself. When she gets cold feet in Vegas already and does not want to marry the old man, James Caan, like I mentioned earlier, he throws $500,000 at her. She's insulted. He throws $1 million at her, and she's still like, well, that's still insulting. A lot more technically because it's more money. It's more insulting, but no, I don't want to do it. I want to wait. God damn it! I need a bathroom break. And then she escapes. She dresses up like a showgirl and flees the scene pretty much. And fools him, dupes him. He's got one fat henchman the whole time. He's pretty funny, but he's worried about eating more than he is about getting the job done properly for his boss. The gambler guy that could, you know, maybe get tired of him eventually and be like, you know what, you love to eat so much, okay, sure, no problem, I'm gonna chop both your hands up and let you eat with your fucking feet or something. But he doesn't think that the whole time. I guess he knows the old man deep down inside, he's only ruthless when he's gotta be, but he's really a pushover, a pussy, so much that he's simping over, you know, Sarah Jessica Parker, which of course, young, pretty. I can't get over her fucking hair because I love that big curly head of hair that she has, like those type of girls that used to have that shit in the 90s, the 80s. I love that kind of hair, but can't blame him, he's simping, so he knows what he is, you know, underneath it all, his boss at least. The way it comes off though, because that's when he gets mad. When he's like, Emil, marry me anyway, and if you don't want to go through, we'll divorce, but at least I'll be able to know that I filled that hole by filling your hole with, you know, my dick, my old balls and shit slapping against your ass cheeks. Then he gets mad. Then he's like, don't run away from me. Don't disrespect me in Las Vegas. This is my city. I'll fucking bury you. I'll bury him. And then what? I'll still bury my nuts inside your dead fucking ass just to fucking laugh with my fat henchmen later on. Why not? But he is simping, and he is on that Drake shit kind of, that Drake energy kind of like, please be with me. Come on, I love you. Why not? Kind of thing. You know, I'm just saying, but it was a little Drake-ish. First bit of trivia is there's a Elvis off kind of contest. Like, what's that show called? God, what's that show? America's Got Talent. But it's more like just in Las Vegas because they're there. They're watching the show. So I guess you can say Elvis Got Talent because it's all Chinese, black, young, old alike imitating Elvis's to see who was the best Elvis. But there's a young, tiny kid one. I don't know the age. I want to say like maybe 4 or 5. Very cute the way he does it. But he's got the actual legit Elvis hair already going on at that age. You know, I can't speak on hair because obviously, you know, hair follically challenged. But the kid, you know, shuffling his hips and full head of hair like Elvis legit at 5 years old or under probably, of all people, guess who it is? It's fucking Bruno Mars. Yeah, that Bruno fucking Mars. You make me feel like I've been dropped out of heaven, or however the song goes, and then all that other shit that what's the one I like from him? Damn. Sugar, that's the way you are. Damn, I forget the name of that one. Or Uptown Funk. He's got hits after hits, you know. No question there. But this is a very young Bruno Mars we're introduced to, or AK in the credits, Bruno Hernandez. Now we know he's, I forget if he's fully Filipino or if he's like Filipino and half some sort of Spanish. I forget. But there are a lot of Filipinos that have Spanish last names. There's that whole thing where I think it was the Spaniards that colonized, or they got the Philippines first before anybody else. So that's why there's a lot of Spanish last names or influence in the Philippines. Or you'll meet Filipino people with like Spanish last names basically. So there's a lot of that going on. But a very young fucking Bruno Mars as Elvis, which is funny to see. Great head of hair. Boy, do I miss my hair, but you know what? It's there. But the kid's moving back and forth, shuffling around. A young Bruno Mars. He's like, I'm sorry, but you know what? He's spazzing. That's the best way to describe it. I know Beyonce can't say that no more. She had to scrub that out of one of her songs. Lizzo's big ass had to fucking take that word back too and apologize. But this is an open platform, so we're going to say it here. Bruno Mars, as a kid, pretending to be Elvis in Honeymoon in Vegas, was spazzing the way the kid was moving. It was like, you know, this combobulating and shit, moving all around and shuffling, you know, very sloppily. Like, there was no choreography. The kid that said, just go out there, be cute, pretending to be Elvis. But then they looked back to the footage and it was like, oh, we should have told this kid to calm down a little bit because he's just fucking like, just whatever, like about to go into a coma. Fucking, and I can't help falling into a coma with you instead of falling in love like Elvis said, kind of thing. But yeah, that's Bruno Mars. That's one little fun fact. The next one too, if you didn't know already, if you're not that up on Nicolas Cage fun facts like that, like I am, because I'm a fan of his and his work, he's a very peculiar, interesting kind of guy. It almost borderline a little too weird, but I think thankfully he hasn't been convicted of any like naughty, dirty stuff like, let's say, a Bill Cosby or like Louis C.K., any of those guys. God forbid. but he just seems like one of those weird guys with weird tendencies that you can't really like point your finger on or put the finger on as far as who did something so much to you that you gotta be this weird. But he's an Elvis, he's obsessed with two things in life. He's a big fan of both. Number one is Elvis, because I guess it was his influence to use Vegas, all the Elvises running all around the city, and also the whole score of the movie being nothing but Elvis tracks and or Elvis remakes by different stars. But he's obsessed with Elvis, so much so that he actually went ahead and married Lisa Marie Presley, aka Elvis's daughter. I believe only child. I could be mistaken. Shout out to Ken Stones. Appreciate you, my brother, for checking in on the live. And yeah, way back to you. So he married her back in 2002. It was big news back when, because he was still, I wouldn't say young, but he was still young enough. And I think there was 2 more marriages he's had after her. In total, I believe he's had like 5 marriages, Nicolas Cage. This being his 3rd then, I guess. I could be mistaken, you know, feel free to fact check me in the comments or wherever too. But more on this. Gets married in 2002 to Lisa Marie Presley. They divorced 3 months later, and they don't finalize the shit until 2004. No kids, so no disgruntled children to like have to be reminded of their failed relationship kind of thing too either. But it's hilarious because if you think of it more in the mindset of a collector or somebody obsessed with like, I need to collect every fucking like Sega Genesis cartridge unpackaged video game out there, and you get the collection and then like the thrill is gone, because it's really the journey, as they always stress, the journey is more fun than the end goal kind of thing. But when you get to that end of that collection, or you get to the holy grail, like the most valuable coveted piece of that collection, memorabilia you can possibly collect, and you get it, the thrill is gone. So I think that's what might have happened, because he's been shown to have like all his Elvis memorabilia, collectibles, exclusive shit that only he has, but he got the real top prize. Anyone can fucking bring their collection to the fucking game and be like, well, I got this from Elvis, I got that from Elvis. He wins every fucking day, because all he's got to pull out is the fucking marriage certificate that he has with Lisa Marie Presley's name on a dotted line besides him as well. I married Lisa Marie Presley. I win this contest of tick measuring to see who's got the best, most memorable Elvis Presley collection. By default, I win. He literally went deep diving inside the treasure chest of Elvis Presley memorabilia and or collectibles. And I'm not saying that to objectify Lisa Marie Presley. Beautiful woman, seems like a good, strong head on the shoulders. Never been in trouble, no real news about her ever since either. I think that's the most attention she's ever had on her. She's been very low-key before that and after that too. So kudos to her for being, you know, reserved like that. But he wins. As far as collectibles concerned, it's like if you're into sneakers, the Holy Grail of Jordans, or at least the Holy Grails of you got them, and then that's it. Where do you go from there but fucking anywhere else possible? Or you give up on the collection, you stop collecting afterwards too, and it's like, well, this was fun, but now it's over kind of thing. I think that's what happened pretty much. But, you know, where's the thrill afterwards, right? You completed the fucking side quest and the main adventure and 100% completed the game, so it's like, I could play again, or I could keep playing and repeating the same shit, but then the thrill is gone. Let me move on to something else, I would think. Then again, he's also obsessed with Superman, like a super fucking, no pun intended, fanatic of Superman shit, to the point where, I forget the name of the wife. I don't think the current one he has now, if he's married again, I forget, to be honest. He always married, divorced, whatever, who can keep track. But he did have a child and named him Kal-El, with a woman who consented to that shit, or most likely who don't know her Superman history like that. AKA, he named one of his children after Superman's real name, Kal-El. The alien name, not even Clark Kent. Not even Clark Kent Cage. He said Kal-El, whatever middle name they chose, Clark Cage maybe. I'd have to do my research on the child, but yeah, you got a lot of questions for that guy in that case too. You shouldn't trust him when naming children. No offense to Nicolas Cage, but come on, man. And then the third fun fact is that I was today years old doing the research for this movie. Only today I find out Nicolas Cage is the legit nephew of Francis Ford Coppola, because his real last name is Coppola and they're related like that, blood ties. So that explains why, and solves a big mystery as far as, you know what? I always thought about this too, oddly enough. Godfather 3. I don't want to talk about it too much because that movie's terrible. And that's thanks mostly to Andy Garcia. Some part, not as much too, with Sofia Coppola with her terrible acting. Sorry, no offense, but a beautiful woman. Then and now too, still beautiful. Chef's kiss to her, but not so beautiful on the screen acting. Well, great to look at acting, but it's hard to watch her act because it's terrible acting. That's the only ugly thing about that woman. And the only ugly thing about Andy Garcia, especially a young Andy Garcia. Pause. But I always thought, man, why couldn't they get Nicolas Cage to do this? Why couldn't they get someone else, whoever came to mind, to do this? But Nicolas Cage always kind of crept into the back of my mind and stayed there. Like, why couldn't they have gotten like Nic Cage to do Andy Garcia's part, playing Sonny's boy in Godfather 3? Until I found this out. One, he's Francis Ford Coppola's nephew, and then right away, two, immediately he's like, oh, that's why. Can't do that because that's his nephew. And then the one that Andy Garcia gets with in the movie is Sofia Coppola. So I doubt Francis Ford Coppola is going to want to promote incest amongst his daughter and his nephew. God forbid. But then I also read afterward in an article, like they had some sort of actor roundtable. Nicolas Cage was there to promote something, and they asked him basically, like, what's a role you never got that you regret? And quote, he says, this is a very embarrassing answer to your question, okay, because it involves family. Or like Vin Diesel, family. So, Uncle Francis Ford Coppola was doing Godfather 3, and I said, I really think I ought to be in your movie, Uncle. I really think it's a good idea if you would cast me. I think I could play this part. He was going to cast Andy Garcia, and then Nicolas Cage says, but I just see myself as James Caan's son, and he's playing Sonny's son. So why not me? He's not playing Michael's son, he's Sonny's son. I just feel a little bit more James Caan. And then he ends it by saying, well, it wasn't going to happen because obviously now, of all things, Francis Ford Coppola ain't going to be like, you know what, you make sense, you're wonderful, I'm going to put you, my nephew, my blood nephew, with my blood daughter, to have a fucking relationship on screen and kissing and making out and fingering each other in like sepia, Technicolor, whatever the shit was filmed in. It would have saved the movie, but then I was thinking too, you know what, they could have maybe like implied kissing, no sex scenes, maybe like have certain angles showing them where it looks like they're kissing but they're really not. They're like really just making faces at each other because they're like cousins and shit. But then it would have been too much editing, too much work involved to like make it kind of maybe work. But too bad, because I think he could have easily saved The Godfather 3 had they gotten Nicolas Cage. But then back in 1990 with The Godfather 3 coming out, and then they find out, wait a minute, Nicolas Cage made out with Sofia Coppola in Godfather 3 for the sake of the art, to make the movie fucking good. Imagine the fucking review. Imagine Roger Ebert, rest in peace, being like, I love this film, but I'm not so in love or a fan of the fact that he had a legit blood cousin make out with his other blood cousin for the sake of saving the movie and making it better than it was supposed to ever be, aka we never really needed Godfather 3, and even though it was really great, I can't co-sign incest, ... creep, Francis Ford Coppola, whatever. No way, that wasn't gonna happen. But you know what, we dodged a bullet on that one. I like to think in alternate reality, maybe I'll go dream tonight about, you know, Nicolas Cage, not Nicolas Coppola, legit born as, just happens to be a really good actor coming up in like 89, 88, gets casted into Godfather 3, no relations, no blood ties to the Coppolas, so then he's able to do Godfather 3 and kick fucking Andy Garcia to the curb and be like, I'm gonna be Sonny's boy. I'm gonna be the one acting alongside Al Pacino, doing my thing as the violent, hot-headed son that Michael Corleone can't put a leash on, and I'm getting it in with his daughter. Not my cousin in real life, we have no relations, but I'm gonna have to imagine that in my head or dream that later tonight. God damn, it could have been so good. If there wasn't no blood ties, it could have been the saving grace for Godfather 3, an otherwise terrible movie. But yeah, that's basically everything I've had to talk about and touch on, consensually, with Honeymoon in Vegas. 30 years since its release back in 1992. Again, Nicolas Cage, rest in peace, James Caan, and Sarah Jessica Parker. Sorry, rest in peace only James Caan. Only he's the one that passed away, rest in peace. But, Nicolas Cage is still alive, thank God, and so is Sarah Jessica Parker. Because, of course, we all need season 2 of and just like that. Because everyone needs a fucking, what do you call that? A reimagined modern-day take on Sex and the City. Just a much older, much wrinklier, and down one of the original 4, where they only make a presence via text. Because in real life, Kim Cattrall really hates Sarah Jessica Parker like that and called her a cunt. And said, don't fake pretend to cry crocodile tears for one of my family members that passed, you bitch, on Instagram just to try to save face and make yourself look good. There's a lot going on apparently with Sarah Jessica Parker. Like, I've read plenty of places she's like a nightmare to deal with, or like really cunty, better yet said. But that's alleged. We don't know nothing. Kim Cattrall could just be Kim Cattralling, because then again, she had what, Porky's, or I forget what fucking movie that was big in the 80s, or she was like topless or something. I could be wrong, but did have a lot of nothing in between, and then got Sex and the City, and then now apparently there's no amount of money you can pay her to come back to, and just like that, to be amongst the rest of the cast. So either she's really standing her ground, or I don't know, she's really putting a lot more worth on her than what they're really trying to offer. Who knows? But final score, final review of Honeymoon in Vegas. I'm going to say this right now. Out of a possible 2 ears here on Who Just Been Watching, my exclusive rating system via the ears right here. Props, of course. I'm going to say this is legit funny. At some points, at most points. Legit funny. That's thanks mostly to Nicolas Cage. Great. I love the fucking energy he puts out there. He's hilarious the whole time. Simply delivering his lines, hitting his cues and words and shit. I legit would want to get into an argument in real life, IRL, with Nicolas Cage, just to get that energy and have probably the most fun I'll ever have in my life. Because otherwise I'm dead inside. But he's so lively, he's so passionate, he's so funny, and just like distressed all the time, and just agitated. Agita is his middle name or something. He's great. I love him throughout the fucking film. If it wasn't him in this movie, I wouldn't have enjoyed this shit. I would have cut it off at some point, because it's like kind of run of the mill. The plot in it all kind of seems a little far-fetched, better yet said. James Caan was great. Rest in peace, obviously, to him. We said it enough times, we can't say that enough. Rest in peace, James Caan. He was good as his character, playing the duality, the two faces of it. As far as him being a simp that's rich, but then also reminding himself that he's that rich that he doesn't have to simp. He's just simp because he wants to be nice, but he could really like break her neck if he fucking feels like it, if she don't, concede to what he wants. Sarah Jessica Parker, young, I'd say beautiful here, like beautiful, fresh face, young, perky, looking great coming out of the pool too, by the way. Check that part out. And just a full head of bouncy curly hair on her. It's gorgeous, it's beautiful. She does good. She's good. She's kind of like just hitting her lines most of the time. I'm not going to consider her ever be one of the greatest actresses or actors, because we can't genderize anything anymore, of all time. But she delivers. It's good. It's mid for the most part. She's just hitting the fucking like lines and cues and whatever. He's the one really making up for them in most of their arguments, because he's the one really arguing and yelling and fucking getting all, agitated about her, like going off the Hawaiian shit too. But she does good. Really great cinematography here, like swooping, panning, fucking wide shots. All this thing is filmed beautifully. Like I want to watch this again soon enough just to kind of study more, like how you fucking frame shit and swoop in and the kind of all these little tricks they did too. Really well put together. Good looking fucking movie. They had a cheat code, which is Hawaii as a background for most of it too, so that's easy to fucking get away with. What else? Again, sore thumb for me was the fucking plot overall, like how everything comes to be and shit. It seems kind of stupid and far-fetched, but then again, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, even back when in 92, shit like this was happening in Las Vegas. Like, hey, you got a pretty enough wife, let me fuck her, I'll clean off most of your debts, kind of thing. I wouldn't be surprised. Also, the score works. Mostly all Elvis shit, either original tracks and or remakes by different artists. I wonder how this would have sounded with like a regular score or regular songs used. They just kind of fit the mood, more modern hits versus all Elvis. It doesn't sound bad. The one that, you know, you can expect when he goes to jail at some point because he gets incorrectly incarcerated, Nicolas Cage. Of course, they gotta play Jailhouse Rock, so you know that shit coming up as soon as like it hits. It's freaking opening cue. That was kind of corny, but and too like easy of a fucking like lob. But I'm just curious how it would have worked, if it would have worked with a different score. Like again, more modern tunes, or just like somebody coming in as a composer and just making original shit for it too. I wonder. But it's not bad with the Elvis shit. Just, of course, that's all his fucking influence, probably Nic Cage, as far as we're concerned. Just give me Elvis. I want to feel Elvis-y the whole time. I mean, if you're not going to let me put on the whole cosplay, at least give me an Elvis soundtrack. For fuck's sakes, I'm going to jump out of a plane in an Elvis jumpsuit with a wig on and a light-up suit. At least give me that if I can't do or whatever Elvis did as Nicolas Cage. All in all, though, I'm going to go ahead and give this one out of a 2 possible score, 2 ears, more specifically. I'm going to go ahead and give this a 1.5 ears out of 2 possible. It is that funny. It's that much of a pleasant surprise to really sit through the whole time. It's only an hour and 30, but it doesn't go slow. It doesn't get unbearable. It's a fun watch throughout. I recommend it. Nicolas Cage is the saving grace. Nicolas Cage alone is worth it just to watch him get so stressed out throughout the film in his character and the way he delivers his shit and hits his cues and lines perfectly. It's wonderful to watch. I really enjoyed him. I loved him in this fucking movie. He's great. And that's why I've loved him ever since I've seen him, and I thoroughly enjoy him most of the fucking time anyway. James Caan, rest in peace again. Can't say that enough. Can't stress that enough. But also great as the bad guy. You know, two-faced motherfucker he is, but he plays both sides so well. Sarah Jessica Parker here too. Young, perky, beautiful. Does her fucking part. Plays it well. The story ain't so, something that makes sense. And what was the other thing? Oh yeah, that all Elvis songs, whole Elvis score, whatever, gets a little annoying sometimes, but it does fit. It's Vegas, and I guess they bent the knee to fucking Nic Cage and his demands to have all Elvis all the time, but whatever. Otherwise, again, 1.5 years out of 2 for Honeymoon in Vegas. 30 years since its release, here on Who This Been Watching. Review for it, episode 56. First off, live, of course, the uncut, uncensored, uncircumcised version of Who This Been Watching, which you'll get later in about a week or so on youtube.com/whothisis1, and or the audio version only for your ears, as I must stress always, on all podcasting platforms of your choice and or preference. I'm Who This. I'm just going to leave you with a parting Nicolas Cage, because Nicolas Cage was the real, like Who This said, saving grace of the film. It's not a bad one. It's not memorable. It's not a classic. But I should have gotten The Godfather 3, even though I'm blood related to Sofia Coppola. Hey, uncle, Francis Ford Coppola, that's my uncle. You could have gave me the part, and you could have cut away from me when I'm about to kiss or lock lips with my cousin, Sofia Coppola. We don't need to have sex scenes. We don't need to be on top of each other or even touching each other. It could be just implied. Why not? You deprived the world of the actual good version of Godfather 3. But that's another story for another time. I'm out of here. I'm out of here too, Nic Cage. Thanks so much for that parting words.